Hey, seventh graders, how are ya? I'm coming to you to do a video for the final for 7B. The previous video that I made doesn't match all of the finals. So I'm making a second video, and to be honest, I don't know if they're giving two different finals or what the situation is, but I am here to do another review. Now, this is great news. When you get into 8th grade, you do not have to do learning logs anymore. Isn't that exciting? I know y'all are all probably thrilled because that was like a major project 6 times during the semester for 7A and 7B. So just know that you don't have to do that for 8th grade. Yay! Okay, let's get started. I am in my car waiting to go in to do physical therapy after my knee surgery. So I'm gonna go as long as I can, and then I may need to make a second video. Are you ready? Okay, the first questions are matching. And some of these were difficult, so let me go through these. Okay, what is it called? It's these people use new methods to farm in West Texas, and the answer is dry farmers. Dry meaning they didn't have any irrigation on the land, and they had to depend on the rain for all of their water. My dad was actually a dry farmer. Okay, shearers of sheep. They sheared the sheep. Tasinques. I guess I'm pronouncing that right. Tasinques. Next one. These people rented land to farm. They didn't own the land, but they rented, and this is called a tenant farmer. Tenant means you rent the land. Okay, these people took care of the horses, and these were called the wranglers. You might notice that there's a type of jeans that you wear that are called wranglers, and they are named after these guys or girls. Girls could do it too. These people moved animals from one place to another, and these were called drovers. Drovers. Okay, the next section is also matching. What is a funding source for the state in which people lend money to the government? These are called bonds, B-O-N-D-S, government bonds. The largest source of funding for public schools based on real estate values is property taxes. And ask your parents. My property taxes went up this year. I think everyone in Texas did, based on inflation. Okay, this is a fund for public schools that is supported by the proceeds from sale of certain areas of public land. This is called the Permanent School Fund. Permanent School Fund. This is revenue from a tax on fuel for vehicles that support Texas public schools, and this is called Available School Funds. We've got a lot of school funding going on here. So the revenue for fuel is Available School Fund. The one supported by the sale of public land is called Permanent School Fund. Lots of stuff. The next question. These elected board members set policies for Texas public education system. This is called the State Board of Education. And people actually run for this, and it's voted for by the people of Texas. Multiple choice. Now this is a very long one, so listen. According to the excerpt, which statement is accurate? So I'm going to read you the excerpt. The early 1900s marked the end of cattle kingdom in Texas. The number of beef cattle and horses in the state declined sharply, while the number of goats, sheep, and cows, dairy cows, increased. Many cattle ranchers on the high plains sold their ranches. The farmers who bought them used the land for raising cotton and wheat. Corn was second to cotton in the eastern half of the state. Sorghum, another type of grain, was the leading crop in the western half. Large amounts of rice were also grown on the coastal plains, while citrus fruit and veggies were important crops in South Texas. So it kind of all depends on where you live, what you grow. The changes in agriculture, however, did not bring prosperity to Texas farmers. The cost of living doubled between 1913 and 1920, but farm income remained the same. As a result, the number of tenant farmers increased because they didn't have enough money to buy their own land, so they had to lease the land. By 1930, half of white farmers and 3/4 of African American farmers worked land they did not own. Most Mexican American farmers were also tenant farmers. So the statement that goes with everything I just read is this: changes in agriculture left farm income in Texas unchanged. Okay, next. Why did the Texas Highway Department need to build new roads in the 1920s? Because there were so many people moving to Texas, and our registered vehicles went from 40,000 to over 1 million. So we needed new roads. All right, that's the first section. Why were Texans particularly angry at the Zimmerman telegram when it was published? Well, Texans learned that Germany wanted to help Mexico reconquer land that had been lost in the U.S.-Mexican War. I would have been mad too. How did the number of Mexican immigrants coming to Texas change between 1900 and 1920? It tripled to 250,000. Now, this next question, you're going to study a map of Texas, and it is showing where training camps were established. Training camps and airfields, meaning Army bases and Air Force bases. And the question is, based on the map, where were training camps generally located? And they were near cities and airfields. Next, Ulysses S. Grant became president after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth. That is false. Abraham Lincoln was president number 16, and Ulysses S. Grant was president 18. So the president in between was the vice president under Abe Lincoln. And so Grant did not immediately follow Abe Lincoln. Next, Rosanna Osterman was a heroic Texas woman who ran a hospital in Galveston during the Civil War. And this is true. Okay, we're going to try to do maybe one more set of questions, and then I'm going to go in to do my physical therapy, and then I will make another video. All right. Laurie Tatum, a Comanche leader, opposed the Treaty of Medicine Creek Lodge. This is false. So Tatum did agree with the treaty. Next, George Wilkins Kendall was one of the first Texans to raise sheep, mainly for their wool instead of for food. And this is true. So if you can remember that Kendall goes with sheep. Texas cowhands adopted the protective leg coverings originally used by Spanish vaqueros, and they were called corrales. False. They were called what? Chaps. All right. What practice that continues today was established by the Agriculture Adjustment Act? And it is that the federal government will manage the crops, the federal management of crops. Okay, what event led to the construction of a tin smelter in Texas City, Texas? Okay, so a tin smelter creates tin, okay? And because Japan had kind of conquered Southeast Asia, it left us without any tin, so we had to create our own place. Remember, Japan was our enemy during that war. All right, cotton farmers faced, okay, this is a long thing and it's about an excerpt. So let me read this. This is pretty long. Cotton farmers faced similar problems. Cotton prices began to fall in the 1920s. The decline continued into the early 1930s. And in the period of 1930 to 34, the price for a bale of cotton was less than 40% of what it had been in 1920. Oh my gosh. When farmers produced more cotton to make up for lower prices, then the supply just got bigger and prices even went lower. Producers weighed their cotton carefully to ensure they got the best price possible. Cotton farmers, like oil producers, needed to cut production to make prices rise. Some state governments tried to take action. Louisiana passed a law that would ban growing cotton in that state if other states would agree to do the same. But Texas leaders did not support the idea. However, when the Texas legislature finally did pass a law to reduce production, it was ruled unconstitutional. With prices at rock bottom, many small farmers lost their land to larger growers who could better withstand the low prices. Now, that was a lot of talk, and let me tell you what I just said in a few words. Cotton prices were terrible, low, 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 low. Farmers started making more cotton. Well, the more you have, the lower the price. So it was just a vicious cycle. Louisiana tried to step in and change things. Then Texas tried. It was ruled unconstitutional. So what did this excerpt say? And here it is. They had to decrease their production in order to make prices rise. They meaning the farmers. Okay, this is the last question I'm going to do on this video, and then I'll make a second video shortly. In 1948, the National Republican Party officially voiced support for several civil rights measures, including an end to segregation in the armed forces and a law banning lynching, and this is false. I wish we could say true, but the Republican Party did not do this, which is very sad, because we really should not have had lynching and bad things like that. Okay, so we are not through, but I've got to go in and do my little physical therapy, and I'll be back soon. Bye.